What exactly did Sabine do on Lothal during the original trilogy? Well, she was protecting Lothal, of course, but what happened during this time? Was she supporting Mandalore in some way? Or maybe she was in contact with Ahsoka during this time? I speculate on these questions and more, so let's get right into it. So was Sabine in contact with her home planet on Lothal? It only makes sense that she was in contact with her mother and brother. After all, in Star Wars Rebels Season 3 and 4, we see a great story arc of her mending those relationships. But could there be more to that contact? What if Sabine and Lothal were building weapons and supplying them to the rebellion on Mandalore? We know from the Heroes of Mandalore episode that Sabine developed a deep connection with Bo-Katan, and so I could see Sabine reconnecting with her and asking how she could support the war cause. I mean, Sabine is a warrior, and there is no way that she just sat on Lothal ignoring the galactic civil war. So what if she was actually developing weapons on Lothal and supplying them to the Mandalorians? Sabine does have a background in developing destructive weapons, not just using them. And this could explain how the capital city on Lothal grew to be so rich under Sabine's rule or support. So that's one possibility, but what about Ahsoka? Was Sabine in contact with Ahsoka during the original trilogy? Well, I was watching the family reunion and farewell epilogue again today, and I noticed something. And maybe I'm reading into things a little too much, but Sabine looks a bit surprised and maybe a little happy to see Ahsoka's ship. It's like she's been waiting for Ahsoka to come. She already has her bag packed and is ready to go. So I'd speculate that Ahsoka doesn't just show up, they've been in contact. In the past, I created a video about how Ahsoka was protecting Luke Skywalker during the original trilogy from Emperor Palpatine. And what if Sabine was one of the people that was helping her do this? Well, something else I noticed in the epilogue was that the wolves were out in the open with Sabine. You might notice that there were both gray wolves, no black or white, and I believe this represents the balance that has been restored to Lothal. But could these gray wolves actually have been transporting Ahsoka around the galaxy during the Galactic Civil War to help protect Luke? We see them transport the rebels around Lothal, so they might actually have greater powers to transport Ahsoka elsewhere. At the very least, Ahsoka may have used the Lothal as a base of operations and visited to resupply and plan her next moves when trying to protect Luke from Emperor Palpatine. What was Sabine Wren doing during the original trilogy? Protecting Lothal, of course. But what happened during this time? Did she meet Luke Skywalker like I suggested in an earlier video? Was she in contact with Ahsoka during this time? I speculate on these questions and more in this video, so let's get right into it. So would Sabine ever meet with Luke Skywalker? Well, in a recent video, I mentioned that there's a huge problem with Luke's story at the moment, and that is the fact that no one from the rebellion has talked to him about Kanan and Ezra, the former Jedi. It has been well documented that Luke is searching for answers about the Jedi, so I believe in the Star Wars comic we will see him take a trip to Lothal. Once there, Sabine will tell him the story of Kanan and Ezra and take him to the place of the now destroyed Jedi Temple. Where this gets really interesting though is whether or not Sabine will tell Luke about the world between worlds, which makes me ask myself, how much did Ezra actually tell Sabine and the other Ghost crew about the world between worlds? And how did Ezra interpret all that? Does he feel like he actually saved Ahsoka? It sure seemed like it, but maybe he thought it was all part of a vision after a while. It sure would be interesting for Luke to discover the world between worlds, but I don't really think that's likely. Plus, when does Luke learn about Ahsoka? Or does Sabine tell Luke that Ezra could still be alive? There's definitely a lot more for Luke to learn about, and I hope that Sabine will have a part in teaching Luke about the past. But what about Ahsoka and Sabine? Was Sabine in contact with Ahsoka during the original trilogy? Well, I was watching the family reunion and farewell epilogue again today, and I noticed something. And maybe I'm reading into things a little too much, but Sabine looks a bit surprised and maybe a little happy to see Ahsoka's ship. It's like she's been waiting for Ahsoka to come. She already has her bag packed and she's ready to go. So Ahsoka showing up isn't really a surprise, they must have been in contact. But when exactly did Ahsoka first contact Sabine? Well, recently I created a video about how Ahsoka was collecting the children of the Force during the original trilogy, and one of the questions I asked in that video was, What did Ahsoka do with all of these Force children? What if she was actually in contact with Sabine during this time and was taking those children to Lothal? Something else I noticed in the epilogue was that the wolves were out in the open with Sabine. Could the wolves be helping Sabine protect these children of the Force? I'm not saying the wolves are raising the children of the Force, that would be hilarious. I'm just saying maybe they are part of the reason Ahsoka decides to take the children of the Force to Lothal. The wolves are guardians of Lothal, and they could be guardians of these Force children as well. So what exactly was Sabine doing during the Galactic Civil War? It's a safe bet she spent most of her time on Lothal, but did she ever leave? Well, in this video, I'll be sharing community thoughts on these questions and more. So let's get right into it. I think a mystery we really need to address right away here is, did Sabine leave the planet of Lothal at all? And the Medieval Man 9 has an interesting theory about this mystery. He comments, as Lothal's self-appointed guardian, she would definitely go off-world to strike at the Empire from time to time, just to blunt any potential reprisals against Lothal. At this point, she would be able to make the Empire believe that any strike she made was actually done by the Rebellion, which would help both Lothal and the Rebellion out. Lothal in that it keeps the Empire's attention away from them, and the Rebellion in that it enhances their reputation and makes recruiting for them that much easier. That really would be a fantastic strategy, Medieval Man 9. I like how Sabine could strike out and distract the Empire from Lothal. I must say that's one of my biggest problems with the ending of this series is, why didn't the Empire come back? Why didn't they just send a Star Destroyer to go back and bombard the capital city and just wipe everybody out? Yes, I know it's Disney XD and they wouldn't do that, but story-wise, it certainly seems like the Empire, the Emperor, would have made that happen. So we need some reason as to why that didn't happen, and I like this idea you've come up with a lot. Another interesting question is, how would Sabine prepare Lothal for an attack? And Roberto gives us an answer to that very question. He states, I think Sabine is helping Lothal recover from the damage done to it by the Empire, along with forming a military force to protect themselves in case the Empire decided to return. Yes, forming a military force might have been a priority. I think repairing or creating a shield to protect the capital city from any sort of bombardment from the Empire might be a priority as well. But the big question I have, Roberto, here is, how did Lothal make enough money to clean up the environment, recover so quickly? Within 4 to 5 years, they have this beautiful, pristine city. How did they all do that, and how did they fund it? And of course, I should mention that Roberto also slipped in that, being a huge fan of Ezra Bean, he thinks that Sabine would realize her love for Ezra during this time. And Don Trell supports him in the comments as well, stating Sabine will have many flashbacks about Ezra during this time, and she will be remembering all the times that Ezra saved her life. And yeah, at this point, Don Trell and Roberto, I've said it many times, when Sabine is touching that mural of Ezra, it certainly looks like she has fallen in love with him. But moving on here, guys, we also have Master Video Studios. He's saying, here's something that could have happened. Before you leave, Luke Skywalker, I have something for you. This is Sabine speaking. It belonged to a friend, but you need it more than I do. It may need some work. Sabine handing Ezra's lightsaber to Luke before rescuing Han Solo. So that would be between Empire Strikes Back. We know that Luke has that green lightsaber similar to the one Ezra has. So could Luke's lightsaber actually be Ezra's? That would make a very cool connection. Thanks for the comment there, Master Video Studios. But moving on here, we have Martin R, and he's stating, I think Sabine was a peacekeeper, keeping underground criminal activities away from Lothal, putting her bounty hunter skills to use. Yeah, this is a really cool idea, Martin. Definitely in a place like Lothal that was so broken, you would expect criminals to come in, try and take over, and Sabine would have been the reason that that didn't happen. Up next here, we have JJ, and he states, I think Sabine would try to build Lothal into a military power by building starships and weapons using the old Imperial factories. And yeah, JJ, that would be really interesting. We know that the factories were destroyed, but obviously there would be some things that were left over in the city that they could use. It would answer the question that I had earlier about how did they become so wealthy so quickly in just 4 to 5 years and repair their city. if they were shipping off weapons to the Alliance and gaining money from that. But the one thing is that they would have to do that definitely on the down low. Otherwise, they would attract a lot of attention from the Empire and end up being occupied again. So I like the idea. I'm just not quite sure how they might have pulled it off. And lastly here, guys, I also need to revisit the awesome theory by Medieval Man 9. He mentioned this in the Sabine spin-off series video I did, in which he mentioned that Sabine would help Ketsu deal with the Black Sun at some point. There's no way that the Black Sun would let Ketsu just walk away from working for them, and it's not like Sabine to not help a friend in need. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If we go back a little bit and sort of mix that in with one of the other theories that were mentioned, maybe it's actually Ketsu and Sabine on Lothal, and the Black Sun show up to Lothal trying to take things over, and of course trying to get back at Ketsu as well. And it's Ketsu and Sabine who have to work together to drive those criminals off the planet. Wouldn't that make for a great comic book series? Awesome idea, the Medieval Man 9. You should be working at Lucasfilm, my friend.
This was a compilation of 3 previously published videos. Let me know if you've enjoyed this format in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.